Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special discussion. My name is Matt Houston. I am joined by the legend that is Jess Zammit. How are you, Jess?
Hello, doing great. How are you, Matt?
Doing great. I'm very good. I'm very good. And we're getting together because we were lucky enough to attend a real life PR event in person. It wasn't online, it was a whole big thing
Yeah.
in Sydney for Plaion and their upcoming slate. And honestly, it's a big slate, isn't it?
Mm,
There was a lot
it's
of games there.
massive.
It's huge. There was tons of games there. Um, Honestly, I'll say there's some that are not for me in the
Hmm.
slightest, but there is certainly catering for a wide audience in a lot of these games. So we're going to go through all the games we played, briefly talk about the ones we played. There's some we didn't actually get to play, and you'll understand why if you ever see the list. But
Hmm.
but we did play some very good games while we were there. So we're going through a list here. We've got a list here. So if you see me looking off the side, I'm looking at the list. The first up was Goat Simulator 3. Now, that's got a big following, the original Goat Simulator. And some reason they skipped Goat Simulator 2 and went to 3. And Mel Brooks-ish type reasons, I guess. Jess,
Why
you
not?
you had some screaming goats and,
I
and spent a bit
did.
of time with them.
Did spend some time with screaming goats. Look, I mean, it was what you expected it would be. It was fun. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. You're a goat, and you do a lot of stuff that goats don't usually do. Like I got behind the wheel of a tow truck and relocated a whole house by just pulling it across the side of the road. At some point, I had this weird mermaid stuff on my head that let me shoot fish from my head. Or like a fireworks kit that let me put fireworks on my back and then shoot fireworks that would then attach to people who would then do I guess have no physics and would just be circling the ground with fireworks kind of up their butt. So, it's good fun. It's silly, it's ridiculous. But it's a good kind of silly. I think it's a bit of
Yeah.
fun.
My kids love the original one because of its
Mm.
just pure absurdity. So I'm assuming this will be the same. It's just
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it the first one was quite broken in a lot of ways, and it kind of
Yes.
lent into it a bit. Is it
Yeah.
still feel as broken, or is it
It,
like is it
it
shiny jank?
it feels like shinier jank, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's moments where it could feel broken, because you press a button, you lose all physics, so
Yeah.
the goat just collapses to the ground and rolls, and then whatever happens. So, um, there's definitely a lot of scope for jank, but I don't see the jank getting in the way of the fun.
The fun.
But
Yeah.
it was pretty polished, to be honest. Yeah, and
Words you
I
never
don't think it
thought
needs
you'd
to be.
say.
No, I
Goat
really
Simulator
didn't.
is polished.
Polished goat simulator. Boy, did those fireworks up that butt just look great.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent. I missed that one because I'm actually going to grab the code, and I think I might review it myself
yeah,
if no one wants to jump in and have some fun with it anyway. Next on the list is Dead Island 2. We both play that.
we did.
This is a game that is a long time coming, like 2009 or I don't know. It's like 10 years or something. It's ridiculous. I
Too
can't
long.
remember when it was announced. Um,
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, it was yonks ago. Anyway, and the original developer got sacked or left, or I don't know what happened there. And Dambuster Studios came on, which is a big deal because Dambusters were also in charge of getting another game that was broken and delayed out the door in the form of Homefront 2, which didn't end well for them. Luckily, Dead Island 2 is looking much better.
Mm,
It's very well. It's a vertical slice that we saw. So we saw
yeah.
one mission. There was a 20-minute window that we had to play it and finish this one mission, which was kind of on the Santa Monica Pier in LA. And there was a
LA is
carnival
what they're
and
calling it.
yeah, LA. Yep. It's
LA.
very much
Yeah.
leaning into that Zombieland vibe,
Yeah.
with a very tongue in cheek and over the top humor and stuff like that. Um, and it played really well to me. Like it certainly felt better than the original Dead Island, which was janky in its own right. Like it was a good idea that was never quite executed well until Techland did Dying Light
Mm.
following it. So Dead Island 2 is quite good. It's tough though.
It's
Like
hard.
they dumped us into this kind of mid-level mission with almost no learning or anything behind us and just said, "Here, have at it. There's a bunch of
Yeah, go
weapons.
on.
Go nuts." Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no tutorial, no, like, this is how you do literally anything, just go
Yep.
for it. I mean, it's pretty intuitive. It's like
Yeah.
zombies attack you, whack zombies, pick up
Yeah.
more weapons, repeat. But there's some really lovingly rendered like eyeballs coming out of sockets stuff that I saw. So
The
it's
gore tech that they have built is
yeah.
apparently a separate system for this game.
Hmm.
It's a whole system built on gore, so it is pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It'd make an Evil Dead movie look tame, to be honest. But
for sure. Yeah.
there's a lot there's a lot of gore and blood. And there was the mission. There was the final boss, which was a clown.
Mm,
I got to that clown and got eviscerated. And I
yeah.
watched, and apparently only one person in the whole day
Mm.
actually managed to beat the boss.
Oof.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was it was a bit rough, but I think once you've played the game and up to that point, you might be a
Yeah.
bit better equipped to take take him
Hope
on.
so. Because I couldn't even get to the clown. I was repeatedly murdered by an enemy that I think was called a crusher,
Oh,
who
the
was
big
just this
like
this real big like footballer sort of build.
the zombie
Um,
steroid
yeah,
user. Yeah.
that really just pounded me into the ground, just
I
over and
used
over again.
classic video game technique of
Mm.
cheesing in the corner. What?
Mm. Yeah, nice. Should have done that. Really should
Yeah.
have.
That's how I got through him. But yeah,
Yeah, nice.
I felt it played really well, and
Yeah.
I'm keen to see more. So, and it looks great. Hopefully that vertical slide is not the only polished thing in the game
No.
when it comes out in February. So
Yeah, no. Look, I liked the line that they were giving, which was it was about people who were thriving, not surviving in
yeah,
this apocalyptic zombie sort of world. Which looks fun.
yeah, it's very brash and in your face, and
Very.
yeah. That if you think the Woody Harrelson character from Zombieland, you've got a really good idea of what
Yeah.
they're kind of going with. Someone
Mm.
that's enjoying their time in this kind of mass murder filled world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, this is the biggest game of the day that we're up to now. I
Yeah.
didn't play it.
Mm.
Look, I just didn't have time, honestly.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Horsetails.
Horse Tales, Emerald Valley Ranch. So I was a horse girl growing up because of course I was. I don't think that would shock anybody to
Hmm.
know that. Um and yeah, look, had I at 10 years old, all I wanted was an open world like horse game where you could raise your own horses and make friends, and each horse has its own like unique personality, and you can tame them and breed them, and they have like these whole like genealogy kind of these like genetic trees that I think are gonna play into the game somehow. And the basic premise is that you get put on this ranch, and your aunt, I think, called you there and is like, hey, come live with me on the ranch, and you get there and it's in ruins, so you have to like rebuild the ranch and
So it's
raise
Stardew
horses.
Valley with horses.
Stardew Valley with horses, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. But it looks kind of like Breath of the Wild, I guess, like art style
Yeah,
wise.
yeah, yeah.
But not quite as polished as Breath of the Wild, obviously. um Look, it's it's I'm having fun. Like, is it the most polished, incredible thing ever? No, like it's not, and it's not going to be for everyone. But it
Mm.
makes my heart happy, Matt, and I understand why you don't want to play it. Um, but it's
Much to the
nice.
disappointment of the Plaion PR team, one
Yeah,
person in particular really wanted
yeah,
me to play
yeah.
it.
Because she knows what's important. And yeah, look, it's fun. If you're gonna if you're gonna enjoy just riding a horse around an island, just kind of completing quests and doing races and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, it's not gonna change your life, but it's fun. It feels nice to play. From what I saw, obviously
From
we
what you
only
saw.
played a little bit. Yeah.
That's going to be the box quote now. Feels nice
Yeah.
to play. Jess Zammett, player two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Awesome. All right. Now, Gungrave Gore. I don't know if you didn't get to play that one.
I
Did you play?
didn't.
No. Okay. So I played it. It's a restart of a franchise. Like from what I understand, it's an old anime. Only lasted for one season, but has a very good reputation. Like apparently, it's well regarded. I'm not an anime guy, not sure, but I did a bit of research beforehand.
Mhm.
And the second video game. So the last one was in the PS2 era, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and this one, that was a big thing. Like, I actually talked to the developers and I asked, why now? Like, why bring this seemingly dead IP back? And their response was they really liked that it's not an American hero. Apparently, there's this feeling of like all heroes are there to save the world and do the right thing, and so this guy's essentially like a mercenary. He's very down the line. He's not funny at all, and they kind of like the idea of this kind of deadpan serious, while everyone around him adds the humor and things like that, and he's just kind of this deadpan kind
Yeah.
of guy. It plays very much like a PS3 action game, like not in a bad way though. Like it reminds me of simpler times sort of
Yeah.
thing. And starting the demo level, you start it starts off very basic. You've got guns and you've got a melee attack, and that's it. But as you go through this level, there's more and more skills added, and by the end, there's quite a lot to the combat system. So I'd be very interested to see how that plays out in the actual game itself, just outside of the demo, because I felt like it felt like I'd just finished the first tutorial level, and everything had
Yeah.
been explained to me, and it kind of comboed in nicely. It's all very linear. Uh,
Mhm.
it doesn't look amazing, but it certainly doesn't look bad either.
Okay.
And I kind of described it as that sort of game you would have happily rented a few times from Video Easy back in the day, finished it and probably forgotten about it, but had a good time while playing.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like it's probably a PlayStation exclusive, I think, but it almost feels like Xbox Game Pass fodder. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay.
Like that sort
Yeah.
of thing that'd probably find a really good crowd that'd enjoy a 6 to 8 hour sort of action blast them up that
Yeah. No.
controls well but doesn't change the world.
Yeah. Coming to
And
all
that's the
platforms.
sorry,
Coming to all platforms.
all platforms. There you go. So yeah, it feels a bit like
Mm.
Game Pass fodder. Which wouldn't surprise me, and I think it'll do very well on that sort of thing. Like I said, it's not going to break the mold in any way, and it's a game everyone's probably played before, but it's done really well. And the developers were quite open in their kind of inspirations and what they wanted to make. So I think they've nailed it from what I've played anyway.
Hmm.
All right, Matto Anomalies. Did you get to play that one?
I did a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I played a bit of
Yeah.
it too. That was I started up thinking it was a visual novel at first,
Yeah.
or like a kind of adventure game, a point and click game, and it turns out
Mm.
no, it's a JRPG. Just lots of
Mm.
text to start with.
Yes. Yeah. And a very visual novel style kind of representation of that text.
Yeah,
Like the dialogue is very, yeah.
yeah, it felt
Um,
like a visual novel, but then combat kicked in, and it was JRPG, turn
JRPG.
based. It was Final Fantasy, whatever you've played, that
Yeah.
sort of Lethal Combat. It looks pretty good. It gave me a very Scarlet Nexus sort of
Hmm.
vibe in the kind of computer world mixed with the real world sort of thing they've got going on. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell that sort of game in
Yeah.
a really small bit. What do you think?
Yeah, it is hard because there was clearly so much going on, particularly like
Mm,
there always is in JRPGs, and it's hard to kind of scratch the surface of all the tiny parts.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it looked interesting. I think fans of the genre will be interested in it.
yeah,
I might be. I don't know. It seems to have a detective-y kind of aspect to it, which
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
appeals to me. So yeah,
Bit of not Professor Layton. Yeah, bit
a little
of
bit
that. Yeah,
that
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 feel.
kind of vibe. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I liked the combat. There was like
yeah,
clear tactics to be used with
it was.
weaknesses and strengths and that
Yep.
sort of thing. So I think there's potential there. It's just so hard to say with just most of these games go for 40 hours at least, and
Yeah,
in 20 minutes it's pretty hard to make a call.
yeah, a little bit.
Next on the list was Scars Above. We both played.
I did.
Kind of Space Tomb Raider crossed with a little bit of Dark Souls.
Mhm.
Yeah, is kind of the feeling. Obviously, third person like gun shooting is more the combat than the melee stuff.
Yeah.
But it's got that kind of slower ish pace to the combat that a Souls game sort of has, and it's a little brutal in you can die quite easily,
Yeah.
and you have to be careful with your choice of attacks. But I quite enjoyed my time with that one. I think
Mm.
there's something there. I know
Yeah.
you had problems with certain things in it.
Look, it's just a problem I have with a lot of games because anytime you introduce anything that looks vaguely like a spider, it just freaks me out. I can't. So, Skyrim, not great for me. The Witcher, parts of it, problematic. But that said, if the game is good enough, I'll push through. Like I love Dragon Age. There are
Yeah.
spiders in Dragon Age, and I hate it, but it'll be fine. The spidery type enemies that we kind of came across have like 4 legs instead of 8. They still scutter, which is
Yeah.
not great. But it's okay. And yeah, like it was fun. It's kind of intriguing. There's some cool spacey sci-fi
Yeah.
sort of stuff going on. Space Lara Croft seems cool. I don't really know anything about her yet, but she seems
Yeah, it's hard to
cool.
say in the demo what she's actually like. I feel
Yeah.
like it feels to me like there's quite a bit of story to this.
Yes.
Like there's already investigations and things you have to learn about certain parts, and a really cool feature they have is she's got some ability to turn natural fauna into ammunition for her gun, and
Mm,
there's obviously a story behind that, and the
yeah.
technology that they've got, and that's all very intriguing. I love a really well built sci-fi kind of universe, so
Yeah.
I'm keen to see that in its full picture. And if they nail that, I think they're quite onto a winner. The combat felt really good. It didn't feel janky in any way. It
No.
all felt fair. So yeah, I really liked the battle with there was a big rock creature that had a fire, it was a obvious weak point, but you could only hit it when it reared up to attack you. So you kind of had to time your shot to hit it, and that sort of thing, like basic sort of stuff in video games, but it worked really well. So yeah, I'm keen to see more.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, System Shock. Now I made you play this.
You did.
I
You
did.
didn't have to like twist my arm too hard, but
Yeah,
it's not a franchise that I'm that familiar with.
yeah. Well, tell me, as someone that's new to System Shock,
Mhm.
what
Yep.
was your thoughts? And I look, fair game. You can be as brutal as you like.
I don't want to be that brutal. I think it takes some getting used to compared to more modern titles because there's a
Mm,
lot to it that still feels very much like of the time that it was kind of
yeah,
made. So once you sort of learn that like a lot of the things you have to interact with will not be that easy to see. For example, like you really have to look in an area to find tiny things to interact with, and it's not that clear, and like things aren't signposted that well, I guess. So it just requires a little bit more, um, you know, intentional searching for stuff. Um, but otherwise, like it's fun to play. It has a cool kind of art style
mm,
where everything looks quite polished, but then you get up closer to it and it's
it's
quite pixely.
pixelated. Yeah,
Yeah. Which was cool. And yeah, it's clearly again an interesting sci-fi sort of world.
yeah.
And I could see myself getting really into it now that I understand
What
how
they're
I have
going
to
with.
approach it,
Yeah,
I guess. So it took a second. And it's not the easiest thing to learn without help, but
yeah.
I think it would be worth it. I think it looks good.
As someone that played the original way back in '93 or '4, whenever it came out,
Mm.
there are changes. Obviously, back then you had to use WASD to look.
Mm.
There was no mouse look, so it was a fucking nightmare. But now that there's mouse look at that, but what they've done with the graphics for me is
Mm.
they've added that nostalgia filter to it. So
Yeah.
it kind of looks how you remember it looking, not how it actually looked. So it
Yeah.
looks old. It
Yeah.
looks like the game I used to play in my
Hmm.
head.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of the easiest way I think to describe it. And for me, the old PC style of it, of looking for the little bits and pieces, kind of came naturally because that was the era I grew up in. So I can see new players falling off. I think it's going to do a very good job of appealing to people that have played System Shock before.
Yeah.
I think people that have played it are going to have an absolute blast with this because, like, all the same things come back to me, like the voice of Shodan. If they haven't used the original voice actor for Shodan, whoever they've got is like a dead ringer. and it's just the creepiest voice. For those that
Yeah.
know, they know what sort of a crazed thing Shodan is, but and it does a really good show. This was obviously a very early level, but it's starting to show all the kind of really messed up things going on in this
Mm,
space station, and
mhm.
there's a bit of a like you can see where that Dead Space and games like that have drawn inspiration from System Shock, and it's even more clear after playing it again for the first time in quite a long time. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's going to do its job very well in that appealing to original fans. I'm not sure how new people are going to take it because it is just that little bit old school. I'm not going to say like, and that's selling it short. It may
Mm,
actually find its niche, but I think there's going to be a barrier to entry there for
yeah.
new players.
Yeah. I feel a little bit like there might be, but
Yeah.
particularly keen on the genre, then I don't think it's a
Mm.
insurmountable kind of
No,
situation.
and it's such an influential title, so a lot of
Yeah.
people might be inspired to see where BioShock came from, to see where Dead Space, like I said, these kind of space horrors that are seemingly very very popular right now.
Yeah. Yep.
They all draw a lot of inspiration from this, which was kind of the original of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see if they do number two, which was a better game back then
Mm,
by some way. So it'll be very keen to see what they do then.
yeah.
Now the chant we're not going to talk about because we didn't
No.
play it purposely because we're about to review it. So
Yes.
we'll leave that one. But Floodland I played for a bit, and that's absolutely my jam. And I forced myself to stop playing it because it's the sort of game I could lose
Yeah.
hours to. You
Mhm.
played a bit too, didn't you?
I did. I did.
Yeah,
I had a good time. Yeah, it's a simulation kind of game that's set after
yeah,
a world that has been ravaged by the effects of climate change, and people have to build back their society basically, and
yeah. So it's essentially SimCity
yep,
in a post-apocalypse world,
yep,
post giant flood world.
yep,
Um, and you're making do with the resources you've got, the leftover junk, and that to rebuild your society. And it is absolutely my jam. Think
hmm,
a little bit more of a freeform version of Frostpunk. Not so
yeah,
strict, not so brutal, but that kind of setting. It
yeah,
looks a bit more hopeful than Frostpunk was, though. That
it
was very
does.
bleak, very
God,
bleak.
yeah,
But yeah, it seems like the absolute sort of game. And if you like that sort of game, like Tropico or SimCity, or you're gonna like this. I think this is absolutely up your alley. It's a niche sort of thing these days. They used to be the most popular things on the planet, but
mm,
not many people seem to be into them anymore. But if
yeah, I
you're
know.
that type of person, this is gonna, I think, tickle your fancy.
Yeah, I think there are actually quite a few coming up, like not just
Yeah.
from Plaion, but like watching some of the E3 stuff. There's a
Mm.
bunch coming.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
no,
kind of exciting.
it
Yeah.
is. It is for people like me. That they were my bread and butter. They were the games I could convince my parents were educational.
Ah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Theme park's a business simulator,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Me playing Sim Farm, just like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm learning really valuable stuff about livestock. The supply chain.
Supply chain, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, All Elite Wrestling. Did you get
I
some
didn't.
time with some sweaty, greased up men?
I didn't
No?
get some time with some sweaty greased up men. Bummer for me.
I did.
Yep.
There's a party to be had, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It absolutely feels like a throwback to the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2 type wrestling game, where it's definitely more on the arcade side of things.
Cool.
Quick combos, easy to play. It's there's a bit of interesting story behind it. It's behind Ukes, and they for the longest time were the developers of the WWE franchise,
Mm,
for 2K, and then I think they felt a little abused and used over at 2K and backed out, and so they've gone over and done obviously WWE's biggest competitor, which is AEW.
yep.
Like all the WWE wrestlers that get kicked out, kicked out, they go to AEW.
A natural
So
progression.
yeah,
Yep.
it actually plays really well. I mean, this sort of thing, how much depth is to it is questionable.
Yeah.
Um, but
Do you
for
need
sitting
depth?
down. Not necessarily, but you need things to do. I think. I think you need a good career mode. You need because a part of the wrestling is the soap opera, and
Yeah.
the fighting is a big part of it, and the gameplay is a big part of it. But that whole presentation, the soap opera, the
Yeah.
storylines, that's a really big part of wrestling. And if you're going to do it, I think you've got to get that right. Otherwise, it'll feel like half a game.
Yeah.
So if they can get that right and the career modes right, I think it'll be a really good game to come out and put some pressure on 2K. They improved their wrestling game a lot this year because they gave it a 2-year break. It
Mhm.
was significantly better over the very, very low bar of 2K20, which
Yep.
is possibly the worst game I've reviewed in the last 10 years.
Great.
This was much better. It's good. Competition's good. I like to see it,
Yep.
especially in these sort of games that tend to have regular releases. It pushes creativity. It pushes innovation. You know, you,
Yep.
you see it in sports games where there's exclusive titles and things start to drop off after a few years
Yeah.
because there's no competition. And
Mhm.
FIFA, Madden, they all go through slumps because there's no one pushing them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's good to see.
Yeah. For sure.
Alone in the Dark.
Yes. Yeah.
You played that? No.
No, but I kind of was with you when you did,
Yeah.
so I sort of saw it happening and,
It's very
experienced it.
small demo. It's a
Yeah.
prologue setting up the game.
Mm.
Once again, another very old franchise coming
Mhm.
back. It felt a lot like the original Alone in the Dark, with this kind of creepy mansion. And
Mhm.
there was a girl that you played as. She seemed like she was like 12 or 13 sort of thing. And she was way too blasé about the whole
Just
thing. Like,
deeply unbothered. Just really could not have
like
cared less.
walking through the mansion, walking down the stairs, all of a sudden the floor's a swamp and there's a
Yeah.
creature, and she's like, "Oh, damn, this is a pain."
Yeah. Of course. As you would, just minor inconvenience, you
Well,
know?
no, not like holy shit, my floor's now a swamp.
No.
Um, no, just this is a bother, isn't it?
Oh, piffle. Yeah.
But it was
That's
very mood setting for the game, so there wasn't much to it. It was a very short demo, but
mm,
it was nice to see a
mm.
return, and it feels like it's got that classic Alone in the Dark feel to it. Definitely
It
more on the adventure game side of things as opposed to a straight up like survival horror
mm.
experience.
Look, it intrigues me. It's the sort of game that intrigues me. Like
Yeah.
I probably will give it a go when it comes out. And to be honest, I'll only like it more if it has a protagonist that is just so deeply unfazed by
What?
just whatever's happening.
Strange monsters?
Oh,
This is just a Tuesday.
exactly. That calms me. That makes me feel more comfortable playing a horror game. I remember it a lot from like the early Silent Hill games. Just blood all over the walls and
Yeah.
protagonists just being like, nothing to see here. It's
No, it's all
nothing
cool.
nothing of interest. Like, okay,
Nothing abnormal at
isn't
all.
there? No.
Not sure
All
you're
right.
seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm here for it. Yeah, excited.
Cool. All right, we're getting towards the end of it. Like I said, there was a lot of games.
It was a lot.
A lot of games. And here's one you played it, I did not.
I did.
Aye
Yep.
aye, Captain.
Yeah. Yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants Cosmic Shake, which is the new SpongeBob game that's coming out. I think the one before was like a remaster of an older
Remaster of it like a
game. Yeah.
PS2 or 3 game, yeah.
Yeah. But this one's new. It plays very much like a Nintendo 64 sort of platformer, like 3D platforming game.
Yeah.
It's exactly the sort of game that I would have played as a child, like, and
Yeah.
been really excited about. It's a SpongeBob game. It feels fun and light like SpongeBob. He's, got endless optimism and it's yeah.
Squidward's there to bring
It's,
everyone down.
of course,
Yeah.
gotta be. Yeah, so it's what you would expect a SpongeBob game to be tonally, I guess, bright, colorful, some little jokes here and there. I think there will be children that will love it, that will play this for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it will be like their favorite game. But I think I had fun with it, and I'm
Yeah.
obviously not a child. But yeah,
I
I'm glad.
think this sort of game can be appealing to everyone. They've just
Absolutely,
got to get it right. Like,
yeah,
if the gameplay is tight, even if it's not groundbreaking, and you
yeah,
don't expect this sort of game to be a groundbreaking title, but
no,
if it makes it, the controls are good, the platforming's not janky,
mm,
it works.
Yeah.
then I think there's a lot of love to be had for that sort of game.
Yeah, 100%. And it felt nice. It felt good to play. It felt pretty smooth. And I'm excited that there are games like this still coming out because I kind of love it as a genre. It's,
Yeah.
it feels nice to play. It's
I
easy.
I just reviewed Sackboy, and that
Yeah.
was super refreshing, like,
Hmm.
to play something like that, because it's been a long time. So,
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey, I guess, was the last one I sort of played. So,
Mm.
yeah, it was fun to play that sort of. I knew what I was getting. It worked well, and so I think there's definitely a space for this sort of game, even for adults.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Finally, we're kind of getting to the end of the list. I want to talk about the Valiant quickly. I didn't play it there, but I am reviewing it at the moment, and
Mhm.
it's taken me a little bit longer to finish that review than I thought. So I thought it'd be nice to just
Yep.
drop it in here and talk about it quickly.
Hmm.
It's an RTS game, and it's a squad based RTS game. So if you ever played the Company of Heroes titles where you weren't, it wasn't about base building, it wasn't about building up your army, it was taking control of a group of units in real time and giving them orders across the battlefield or whatever the case may be. The Valiant is that sort of thing, but set during the Crusades. So you play as knights, and it's a very interesting period of history, and they've kind of spiced it up even more by adding some Indiana Jones sort of
Mm.
mythical artifact sort of business going on in there, which makes for quite an intriguing, one
Yep.
one knight found it and become a big jerk, and the other knight kind of, yeah, I'm gonna stop you from being a big jerk. Uh, but it's done with all that kind of occultish sort of secret society sort of thing that's
So good.
so cheesy and fun to just dive into and imagine. And because the Catholic Church is horrible, it's really easy to imagine.
Yeah. Hmm. Not a stretch. Yeah.
No, not a stretch.
Mm.
So it's got a cool story. The controls work. It's not breaking any new ground once again. If you've played this sort of game before, the thing it's got going for it is there's not many of them anymore. So
Mm.
there is a new Company of Heroes coming very soon, but really the RTS genre is chronically underserved at present, and so I think it's well worth checking out if that's your sort of bag anyway. So I'm having fun with it.
Hmm.
I did comment to the PR guys. They asked me how I was going with it, and I said I'm really enjoying it, but I'm old. Uh,
Well, I mean, I'm not that young, but I'm
but
youngish, and I'm
yeah,
going to be jumping into it soon, not to review, but to do a
yeah.
play to play. So we'll see
Hopefully you
how
enjoy it.
I
Yeah,
like it. I
yeah.
I hope so. Yeah.
Cool. All right then. That was our play on event. Jess, was there anything I missed? Did I miss anything?
No.
Apart from the cool venue that was a dance studio or something, and the floor was really springy. But
Yeah, it was very very springy. It was yeah, it was great. If I was ever in my life going to do a cartwheel, I think it would have been in that building. But yeah, no, it's eluded me. No, I think there was some other stuff there that we didn't quite get to for a variety of reasons, but um yeah, big event, lots of games, like a wide variety of games
yeah,
too. So
super.
many different genres, and yeah,
And that's what I think with Play On appeals to me a lot about them. They
yeah,
seem to be the kind of really unafraid to take risks with the
yeah,
games they choose to publish, be it classic reinventions of old games or brand new things that are doing something odd or
hmm,
slightly abnormal. I think a lot of the games industry gets really homogenized at
yeah,
times. Everything starts to become a bit cookie cutter, and it's really good to see a publisher pushing a wide variety of things. And some of it's going to stick, some of it's not going to stick. That's just
hmm,
the nature of the beast. But I think it's wonderful to see a big company that's letting developers go wild,
yeah,
and do these things, which is it's really really cool to see.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Something for everyone.
yeah. All right then. Thank you for joining us for this discussion about PlayOn's upcoming slate. Thanks to PlayOn PR for inviting us to the event. It was very much appreciated. It's wonderful to see such good people, and they were very open with their host and hospitality and all that sort of jazz for us. And it was wonderful to be
Very.
there.
Yeah.
You can make sure you catch up all write-up. I'm going to do some write-ups on some of these. Jess is going to do few bits and pieces. They'll be all on player2.net.au. Head over there, check that out. There's our news, reviews, previews, podcasts, the works. Also, we do have a YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe if you're watching this on video. If you're
Mhm.
listening on a podcast, I think you subscribe on those. I don't know. You do, don't you? You subscribe
Yeah.
to those too. Yeah, do that
Yeah.
bit. Um, it keeps our stats looking good, and that's really the only reason we like you to subscribe, because it's that little warm feeling we get when we
Yeah, it
get a
just
new
feels
subscriber.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we do have a Patreon if you feel so inclined, but honestly, we're very terrible at running that Patreon.
Mhm.
So you can go and check it out if you like, but don't panic about it. We just like it when you enjoy our stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining me. My name's
Mhm.
Matt Houston. Thanks for being here, Jess.
Yes, thank you for having me. And again, yeah, same as you said, thanks to Plaion PR for having us at their super exciting event
Yep.
and for being so wonderful. Yeah, it was fun to chat about it.
Yes. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matt and Jess for as long as Twitter is going to be around. I don't know, that's a trash fire right now.
Who knows?
We'll see what comes from that. But otherwise, all my game stuff is on Player Two. As you mentioned, I've got a few reviews and previews and stuff coming up. So yeah.
Cool. And you can find me at Huso81 on the musky tweets. And Player 2 AU if you just want to follow our Player 2 feed. And yeah, for as long as Elon allows us to be there, we'll probably be there. And we'll catch you next time on our next games discussion. See ya.
See ya.